What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Just recorded a little Monday night podcast with Colin and wanted to hit on some of the things that we did not discuss. So there's a lot of wide receiver news out there. Tee Higgins, franchised again. Devontae Adams on the move, potentially cut. Deebo Samuel tweeted out no bad blood, and then a couple other things as well. So we had some football news and notes as the combine kind of wraps up with free agents, franchise tags. We've seen now the Chiefs apply one, the Bengals apply one. Rumors are that the Cowboys could, and there could be some other players. So we got to keep our eyes out. And there's always that time of year. You know, everyone's like free agency, free agency. It's like, yeah, that's not. This is not basketball or baseball. A guy like Tee Higgins, he might hit free agency after he was franchise tagged twice, right? So it takes these guys a little longer. It's very rare. Even when Kirk Cousins, remember when he signed with the Vikings, he was franchise tagged multiple times. So it's rare that you see high end players, really good young players, just hit the open market. It's luckily the NFL has made up for it with aggressive general managers and a lot of trades and movement because pure free agency can be very, very hit or miss. Honestly, in the NFL, you get guys like Zach Bond, you get random guys sign for nothing and become really good signings. You see it all the time. Like you got this guy for a 1 year deal, he's a Pro Bowler. So it can be a little different. You know, the Juan Sotos of the world aren't usually just hitting the open market. Hell, Tom Brady hit the open market when he was 42 years old. Peyton Manning hit the open market when people didn't know if his neck worked. So it's what makes football fun, though. So we will just kind of do a little rapid fire, get you in and out. Won't be too crazy long. I can nitpick and be critical or give my opinion on my beliefs on how to build a football team and what to value and what not to value. Start with the trenches. Don't worry about the wide receivers, right? Pick and choose your spots on the outside, win and lose on the line of scrimmage. And then you get really good players at wide receiver and you get a quarterback. It's not that long ago that Carson Palmer told the Bengals, no, I refuse to play for you. I would rather retire than play for you. And he has spoken about it over the years. A big reason was he didn't believe that the things they said they were going to do, they would do. And historically, the franchise has been viewed as very, very cheap. Now, Andrew Whitworth, I heard him talk about this probably, I forget where, but over the last month, he's like, if Carson Palmer had been a part of those teams that Andy Dalton led, we could have won a Super Bowl. I mean, those teams were stacked. Now, a big reason they had a bunch of draft picks because of the Carson Palmer trade, but still, he's not wrong. The Bengals have actually been a pretty well-run operation when it comes to acquiring players. Just because you're frugal doesn't mean you don't know who can play and who can't in a draft. I mean, and they have drafted a lot of good players, I would say, over the last 20 plus years. But they are operating completely different because of one man and one man only. And he's got a chance to be the best player in the history of the franchise, and that's Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow has held their feet to the fire. And I think he's doing it not because he views himself like an NBA player, right? And this is what LeBron James would do, or this is what any powerful NBA player would do. I think he's doing it because he knows you can't trust this operation. And at any moment, they could pull back the reins and get cheap. And I think if this was Andy Dalton or Carson Palmer and not Joe Burrow, Tee Higgins just would have hit free agency. They would not have franchised him a second time. I can't imagine they would have done this 5, 10, 20 years ago. But because of one man, they're doing it. And if I was a Bengal fan, like I don't care if you got to pay him $26 million. Let's do it. Let's keep him around. And I have been saying like, oh, Trey Hendrickson, how are you going to keep him all? Hendrickson technically is under contract. Now, it's for a lot less money than he, I'm sure, views himself. He's under contract for $16 million. He's easily worth probably 30 plus. But like he's he's not a free agent, so he can't just walk out the door. Now he could demand a trade, or they technically could trade him, or they can just extend him. And to me, if I was going to give a long-term contract to one of the two guys, because they've already gone on record and said Jamar Chase is going nowhere. Now, Diana Rossini reported that the sides are pretty far apart. Probably because Jamar Chase wants like $150 million guaranteed. And based on last year, I would not blame him. But I would imagine the two numbers the parties are coming in at are at different ends of the spectrum. Probably one's at 100, the other's at 150, and maybe end up meeting at 120, 130 million. But Jamar Chase is going nowhere. If I had to pick one of the two guys between the pass rusher, and I know he's 30 years old, and Tee Higgins, it's not even a question. And ultimately, the Tee Higgins situation, if they have said and reports have been they will work on a long-term extension with Tee Higgins, I would have no problem paying him year to year. Now, it's not an ideal way to do business because when you give a guy a franchise tag, especially the second, which last year was like 21, now it's almost to 27, that all hits your cap and you owe him that much in cash. But like you're basically giving him a 2 year, $48 million contract instead of giving him a 4 year, $120 million contract and guaranteeing him 70 or $80 million, especially when you have to factor in other positions that are of need, i.e., the line of scrimmage. And you keep your quarterback happy in the short term because really, Joe's just worried about 2025. And if he's got Tee Higgins, if you got Jamar Chase, draft a running back, all of a sudden your offense is extremely dynamic again. And you hope with Al Golden. Listen, I think Anarumo got a little bit of a raw deal just a couple years ago. He's viewed as one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, and now he's like the village idiot. But Al Golden's really good. He's been there before. He's comfortable with the organization. We just saw him in college kicking ass and taking names for Notre Dame. I mean, he was easily one of the best assistant coaches in all of Saturday. So if I'm a Bengal fan, as long as Trey Hendrickson is on this team and we keep Tee Higgins, like our defense can't be as bad. And the way we play down the stretch, like we should be a factor. And, today, listen, we can nitpick how they're doing it, but having Tee Higgins on the team for 2025 is better than having him not on the team. Who's scoring big in the NBA this season? You are. With the all-new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From dunks to assists to rebounds, get behind your favorite player and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like picking how many points your favorite player will have. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook and make your first pick. First time? Here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Take it to the rack with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN, that's code JOHN, for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Speaking of bad decisions when it comes to wide receivers, I couldn't even imagine, and there were some people, not many, most people were probably, I know where I fell, is thinking like, this Aaron Rodgers deal, listen, I don't know if he's going to lead the team to a Super Bowl, but if he plays a couple years, they're going to be a playoff team, and it will resurrect a franchise that was dead. And it turns out he destroyed it even worse. His Achilles tore, then he came back, and their team sucked. And all while during that time, he mandated, after he hurt his Achilles, essentially they trade for his buddy, and I'm a Devontae Adams guy. Fresno State Bulldog, pro Devontae Adams. That was a disaster trade because it did absolutely nothing for their team, and they gave up a third-round pick to win, 5 games? And they cut Aaron Rodgers. They are going to cut Devontae Adams because of his cap number. Nobody is trading for him. And all of a sudden you look, you go, in our 2 years of Aaron Rodgers, what do we have to show for it? And the answer is picks given to other teams. And sometimes I'm all for taking risks. I'm a pretty big risk taker in life. But it can be a humbling experience when, especially, not that you get cocky, but when some of your risks pay off and they bear fruit. And you're like, this life thing, this business thing, this whatever thing, I know what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden you make a move that was like, yeah, I would have traded for Rodgers too. And it blows up in your face. But it was pretty crazy during the season as they're firing everybody that they kept doubling down on that experience, and it led them to just give away a pick for Devontae Adams that, um, yeah, something they would clearly like back. Deebo Samuel has tweeted, it's not often that you get a guy who wants a trade, but him and Kyle have a really good relationship. I think Debo really liked being a part of the 49ers. And I was with him on that plane flight when we got deplaned on our way to New Orleans. Hearing him talk about the 49ers, like it was very positive, but like also demanding a trade. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. And when you trade me, I will retweet, and repost every single picture of me in a Commanders jersey. It's one of those like clean splits. It's like Debo tweets, I love John. I love Kyle. Those are my homies, but I'm out. And listen, I've seen every single opinion under the sun of Debo's fat. He's over the hill. The Commanders got to steal. Like I said the other day, I think this is a win-win for everyone involved. The 49ers were not going to pay him 17.5 million. The Commanders can't like what they see on the open market when you have to, basically lock in several years of contract to buy a player who's decent on the open market. You're not getting the guy for 1 year, $15 million. If you like the player and he has a market, you have to give him a multi-year contract. And because free agency, there are multiple people bidding, supply demand, it drives up the price. It's why you see every year like that guard got $45 million guaranteed and $21 million a year. The Denver Broncos gave Mike McGlinchey $50 million guaranteed. What happens? Because, yeah, the Bears were also offering him a contract, and it drives the price up. So you go, wait, I can get Deebo Samuel under a cost controlled contract for a fifth round pick. If it works out, great. We're in good shape. If it doesn't, cost me a fifth round pick and some money that I'm going to spend anyway, but I don't have that many options to spend it. And I have a general manager that knows him. So I'm probably on the. It doesn't feel like there are that many people in 49er land that believe Deebo has anything left. I do believe he could have a productive season. And a productive season for Deebo isn't 95 catches. Like, look at his best years, like 77 catches. Now, he had almost 1,500 yards from the line of scrimmage, and he had a ton of rushing touchdowns. Like, those days are over. But can he give you some big plays? Weight has been a big concern. I think sometimes, and I've been fired a couple times. Do you know what it did for me? It motivated me. And I know Deebo wasn't technically fired, but this has to be a pretty motivating experience. Like, Deebo, you didn't just get traded; you got traded for a fifth round pick. That's what the league thinks of you. That's the only way that you could keep your salary was to get traded for a fifth round pick. So I do believe, if not now, then it never will happen. But I do think that Deebo will be motivated. And I think the 49ers were able to maintain. We're still like a pro player operation, but we're doing what we probably should have done the last couple of years, be a little more cutthroat. Philadelphia. Speaking of Devontae Adams, they trade the conditional third round pick for him, and it just blows up in their face. It's a disaster. He's on the team for half the season. You have to cut him at the end of the season. Whenever he retires, no one will ever speak about his Jets tenure. And what Philadelphia got with Darius Slay is the complete opposite. They traded a third round pick for a guy who became their full time starter for 5 years and made several Pro Bowls and was a starter on a team that went to multiple Super Bowls and won one. Like, when you make a trade for a guy, now obviously the big first round picks when you trade for the Jalen Ramseys, the Tyreek Hills, the Khalil Macks, all your chips are in the middle of the table. But when you make a move like we're trading a third round pick for a disgruntled player who makes decent money, but we still believe can be a really good high end starter. This is the best case scenario. You trade, you get a starting corner who makes Pro Bowls, who's on your team for 4 or 5 years, who you like, then you cut for basically no dead money. Like, that's a seamless transaction. And Howie Roseman, look at the Jets. This is why good teams stay good and shitty teams stay shitty. Right? When you trade a mid-round or, a late second day, early third day pick, and you get a starter for multiple years at a premium position on a winning team, that's gold. That's a big-time transaction. So, listen, Darius Slay's Philadelphia Eagle career comes to an end. and maybe his career. I know there were some people in Philadelphia land that I know thought that he might retire. I think Darius had said after he plans on playing another year. I still think he could probably get a 1 year, I don't know, 10, 12, $14 million contract somewhere. Maybe not 14, but I would say 8 to 10. I don't know who pays on the open market out there in society 8 to $10 million. So I would guess that Darius Slay plays another season, but what a fantastic little run he had in Philadelphia. And last but not least, Sean McVay loves Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, there were people talking about reporters who are clearly in deep with the Rams. Like Sean McVay could, if they did trade Matt Stafford, start Jimmy Garoppolo. And I thought, what? I think Diana Rossini said that. And I had the same reaction that her co-host Chase Daniel had. I think that's fucking insanity. And it is. Like you couldn't go into the season after making the playoffs twice with this version of Jimmy. But you feel pretty good if Jimmy Garoppolo is your backup quarterback. And Stafford gets injured. He has to start a game. Hell, he has to start a month. You could win a couple games. You can keep your season afloat. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo has done your classic transition into, I've made $150 million, and now I'm just going to be a backup for the next, I don't know, 5-6 years ideally, and make anywhere from $3 to $7 million a year. And rack up another, I don't know, $15 to $30 million. And as long as I don't have to play much, I can maintain that price point. The time when I do have to play a lot, that would be a problem because I'd probably get exposed. But Jimmy Garoppolo's in that sweet spot. Andy Dalton's in it currently. Longtime starter, transition to backup, start racking up those $5-8 million paychecks. Boom, boom, boom. And the difference of the Jimmy Garoppolos and the Andy Daltons relative to Chase Daniels and those type players is those guys have started for a long period of time. So you feel much more comfortable with a backup quarterback who's not just a lifetime backup, a guy who has been a starter in the NFL. I view Marcus Mariota, and I think I would rather have Jimmy Garoppolo and definitely Andy Dalton than Mariota. But the one thing you feel good about having Mariota on your roster is like, if we get into a pinch and this guy has to start 2 games, 3 games, a month straight, he knows exactly how to operate as a starter. He knows how to run the huddle. He knows how to prepare. He knows what a given week, what entails. He knows how to lead young guys. He knows how to deal with the veterans. Like, he can just make a seamless transition. Obviously, there's a drop-off from your starter to him as a player, but like, I can just put him in. Sometimes with these lifetime backups, you never know what you're going to get. And oftentimes you're like, oh my God, this is a disaster. So I think Jimmy Garoppolo's in that sweet spot. Maybe Stafford rolls an ankle, misses a game. You can win it with Jimmy. So I get where Sean McVay is coming from. Can I tell you about my friends at Mando? They've taken care of me for a long time now. And listen, it's Arizona. It gets really hot, and I get very sweaty. And that's where my friends at Mando, they come in with the deodorant wipes. How about the deodorant spray? And just the whole body deodorant that you just put a little bit on. You can put it under your pits. You can put it on your arms. You can put it on your balls. And I cannot recommend it enough. It's clinically proven to block odor all day. No one wants to smell. Created by a doctor, all products, baking soda free. So clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap. How do you beat that? 12 hours after a shower, you're still smelling good. I cannot recommend these guys enough. Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick of deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes. Love those wipes. And free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off starter pack using the code JOHN, that's JOHN, at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Welcome to Chasing Challenges, brought to you by Microsoft. And in the NFL, just like in the business world, overcoming obstacles is the key to success. Microsoft empowers business decision makers with AI solutions, simplified cloud, and data management with trustworthy, responsible technology to turn challenges into opportunities. In this segment, we will explore some of the biggest challenges being faced in the NFL and how they can be overcome. Whatever challenges you're facing, Microsoft empowers you with the expertise to say, bring it on. This week, we're discussing the challenges faced by every general manager. When you leave the combine, you have not only talked with agents of your own players, so you get a gauge of what my free agent that I want to keep is going to cost or what they are realistically going to ask for and probably the floor of their contract. But while you are talking to them, they represent other guys on other teams who are free agents or who might be a guy like represent a guy like Darius Slay, who's not a free agent, but pretty clear he's going to be cut. Then he gets cut. Now he's a free agent. And you start gauging the market. This is what we need. These three positions. We want these group of 6-7 players to fill those three holes. This is what it's going to cost. Then you have to go, well, we got this much cap space, or maybe we will have to make some cap space, which the cap in the NFL, I would say, is one of the most fluid numbers in the history of American business, right? You can create and make it look like anything you want it to. It's like this team is $50 million over the cap. They cut three guys, then all of a sudden they're signing a guy. But you do need to work with your owner and go, listen, we can be aggressive and we can sign these three guys, even though we don't have that much cap space, because we can give a much bigger signing bonus and then push that down and kick the can down the road and manipulate our books. But the way you can manipulate the salary cap, and all GMs at this point know this, is by giving huge cash up front. And that is not a general manager or a head coach's decision to make. You need to convince the owner, who some owners are very much behind you. The 49ers and the Eagles spent an ungodly amount of cash these last couple of years. And if you look, teams like the Patriots and the Cowboys have not. So you can manipulate anything you are willing to fit under a number if you want to give more cash up front. And I think conversations after the combine turn into, we can get these two guys if we're willing to do this. And while the conversations have started between the coach and the agent, the GM and the coach and the agent, the front office and the agent, it now turns into the general manager and the head coach dealing with the owner. And can we convince him to pay this much of actual cash in the next couple weeks to sign this guy? Because any coach or any owner has no problem. Yeah, we'll give him 3 years, $50 million and just pay him over the course of the deal. That's easy to do. But the way some of these contracts work, especially in a competitive market, is who is willing to give the biggest signing bonus. You learn this in basic finance classes. Money up front is more valuable than money down the line. It's why last year Jordan Love signed the big contract over the offseason. He got $75 million, I think, before the middle of December. So how you structure contracts can be the difference of landing a player or not landing a player. But it's not the general manager's money. It ultimately falls on the owner. And as we've seen, some teams have more available cash than others. And more importantly, some owners are more willing to part with that cash than others. I think this is a time, if you're a general manager, where you have to turn into a salesman. You have to convince the people with the money, which is the owner. He usually leans on the president. He probably has an accountant you have to deal with, separate from your own cap guy. And you have to convince them this is worth it. This guy is going to be the difference of us winning 8 games or 10 or 11. And we're going to be in the playoffs and have a chance to make a run. Now, those conversations, and if you can convince your owner to part with his money, can come back to haunt you if it blows up in your face. But that is what's going on right now, is a bunch of general managers who will spend the rest of this week, I don't want to say begging their owner, but attempting to convince them that spending this extra $10 million, $20 million, 30, 40, 50, you pick, these numbers are getting huge now in this modern day NFL spending sprees come the middle of March to cut those checks. And the guys who can will land the players. And the guys who can't will come out empty-handed. So that's it for this week's Chasing Challenges. Remember, Microsoft's AI solutions empower you to take bold steps and make informed decisions, sparking new ideas to help drive your business forward. With Microsoft as your trusted partner, you can navigate your journey with confidence, finding innovative solutions and reaching new possibilities. Visit Microsoft.com/challengers to learn more.